Hello guys, this is Frosty, and today, in honor of our good guy Hawkeye, I'm gonna make a video on the topic of the new Avengers video game that's coming out, being made by Square Enix or being published by Square Enix, right? So this game seems like it's a very cool game, but us knowing the AAA industry and us knowing that some of these things that they usually promise they never come to pass, I'm just going to be hopeful that the game is going to be good and it's coming out late this year. I'm going to be hopeful that it's going to be a very good game and it's going to be fun. But I thought it would be fun, for me at least, to just brainstorm how they're actually going to tackle the game itself. So basically, we all know that the game is going to have these types of missions where you're going to have story stuff and then these war zones where you play with your friends and all that stuff. But I also wanted to compare the game, or at least put an idea out there where, an idea of the direction the game could actually go through. So if there's any other game that actually Avengers would actually benefit from copying, would be Warframe. So if you don't know what Warframe is, you can search it on Google. But basically, it's a game where you play as these like suits of armor, like they basically have their own powers and abilities, and you go into these specific missions. And in those missions, you either defend something, shoot an X number of items, all that stuff. Like it sounds kind of boring, but when you first play the game, it's actually really fun. But the problem with Warframe is just that content-wise, it's not producing anything new to the table, and it makes it a little bit boring. For me, it's been a while since I actually really did play Warframe with the intention of playing it, because well, they're not adding anything. But if they do what they promised the Avengers team to basically just release more content and all that stuff, then that'll be fine. So what aspects of Warframe are they supposed to keep in mind when they are basically um, making the game? So the first thing that I think is very important, very very important, is the level design, because we all know that these guys can actually make these Avengers feel good using, like when you're playing as the Avengers. I have a feeling that they're going to be able to do that, but we'll talk about that next thing. But in order for us to actually enjoy playing as the Avengers, the levels have to be amazingly designed, just like how the levels in Warframe are kind of amazingly designed. Because when with Warframe, these levels are procedurally generated, and what that gives us is like a little bit of hope that it feels like it's new every time you play a level. So let's say you fail a level and you go back into the level. The level is not going to look the same. At least the order of the rooms, they're not going to look the same. And that's cool. And if they look good and there's some twists and turns in there, like secret rooms, or you pick up something special, or there's a specific enemy in a specific side of the level, stuff like that will go a long way, because that'll make the level feel cool. Although some of this stuff will be a repetition, but the fact that you found it in a different place, or you found it in a other weird place, or you encounter it in a very different encounter. I don't know what word to use, but basically you get what I'm trying to say. That'll make it feel a little bit unique. And the other thing that they should actually take note from Warframe is the amount of Warframes that are there in the game, and then how unique most of them are. Like I would just say three-quarters of the Warframes, when it comes to their abilities and powers, moveset and all that, they are different, way way different. And Warframe sets the bar on that, like in my opinion, because if you have all these suits and you can actually own all of them, like all the Warframes, that makes it very very cool. Because if you wanna do this, you can use this style, or you can use any style for any mission, and if you're good at it, you have fun doing it. So that's one thing they need to nail now when it comes to the Avengers, because well, we've got Iron Man and Thor. These two are totally different characters. They have different movesets and all that. They need to feel different and not a carbon copy. And from what we see in the trailers, I highly doubt that they're copying anything. So, yay, but we will see until the game comes out. But that's one thing they need to nail, because Warframe in that regard is very good, and I think Avengers would benefit if they had something like that. And then my voice feels weird, but okay. Then there's the basically the game modes. So the game modes, basically what I'm trying to say is the types of missions that you encounter in the game. So these missions, like war zones, as they call them in the Avengers game, it kind of sounds like outside the story missions, there's not much diversity when it comes to these war zones. And That's a bit worrying because I can't keep just doing the same. Maybe each time you play those levels, it'll be different because you're playing either with a public team or your friends and you create new memories. But then all of you collectively will get tired of the same stuff. So they all need to nail the objectives for this game. Things like, excuse me, things like, or if we go back to the Warframe example, the game modes get boring if you keep doing, because at first you enjoy all of them, and then after some time you've got the specific ones that you enjoy, and then when you get bored of those ones you swap to the other ones, and then when you're done with all of them the whole game becomes boring. So to avoid that, they need to find dynamic ways of then improving on those game modes. So the three game modes that I would actually expect to see in the game, if they actually do incorporate many game modes, maybe the first two I would say maybe something like a defense and eliminate type mission or game mode, where eliminate where you have number of enemies that you need to eliminate, then defense you're defending something. So when it comes to these two game modes, for example, they need to have evolving content, meaning that some of these objectives need to mean something either on a story level or on the loot level. And also they need to offer something special for players who are playing as a team. Like if you play as a specific part of the Avengers, I don't know, like for example, when you play Ultimate Alliance, I remember if you chose just the Fantastic Four, you get extra damage or like something like that. They need to make it dynamic every time. I don't know how they're going to do that, but that's a good idea to make it dynamic over time, because that way it just seems like the mission is still defense but it's different. Or maybe let's say the first time you play defense you're just defending one pod, and then the next mission you defend two pods and one of the pods is a trap, and then you need to go and find the actual pod. Let's say the first pod you try to defend, then you see you're actually set up to find this one, then you need to go find the other one. Stuff like that will make the game feel dynamic, and they don't have to keep happening on repeat. Like after this defense you're doing the exact same defense, just different map or tile set. That will make it a little bit boring. So I think they need to find dynamic ways of evolving the content, and then without just having like algorithms just to evolve the content, they need to have maybe seasonal stuff that happens, especially specific to game modes. For example, let's say AIM has recruited like 50,000 more employees that are going to fight on their side. That season it's all about you eliminating these AIM agents. But then the twist now when it comes to the elimination missions, the twist is basically, oh, so now these guys are they have specific powers, or these guys you need to find the actual boss and eliminate everyone, and they make sure that when you eliminate everyone, they're going to tell you what the boss is, something like that. Add a little bit of story. That's not going to add much to the game story per se, but it's just going to give like exciting context to the level when you're playing it, or to the season or whatever, if they decide to go the season route. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts when it comes to how they can copy stuff from Warframe, the good stuff at least, from Warframe into the Avengers. That's how I would like to see my Avengers game. And then the last thing that I need to talk about that's a bit scary is the live service aspect of the game. I just hope that the game, you can download it, and at the very least you can at least play some of it offline. So right now I'm trying to think of a game where you can do that, but for some reason I can't come up with an example of a game that I played where if the online stuff is there, then fine, you can connect online and then play online. But then if you don't have internet, for some of us, like internet is not a given thing, so some of these players will actually need to play the game offline and just play. So there should be an offline mode where you just play maybe these war zones alone, or the story at the very least. At least that would be something that's going to be good, because well, live service, a lot of issues come up with that, especially things like the incentive of always being on the internet, and then updates and all that. That stuff can get annoying with time. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts on what I would like to see in the Avengers game, and I hope people can agree. I don't know. If they agree, then that'll be cool. So yeah, that's me, Frosty, and I'm out.